Take my hand. I'll lead you into death. By a whispering in the shadows. On AO3. Episode 2. Chapter 2. Shouta was filled with an instant's anxious energy he had, and Hizashi made their way to the crime scene. As soon as Kaminari had uttered the words, "Terror cart," he felt his heart stop. It was one thing, acting like a hard-ass around his students. It was another thing entirely, being one. In reality, he was just a big goddamn softy. He had gone through villain attack after villain attack, faced death far more than many pro-heroes faced in their whole career. The Grim Reaper was not something they needed to add to their resume. So yeah, his anxiety was at an all-time high as he moved to his students, practically leaping out of the car before Hizashi had to stop it, pushing through the small crowd that had gathered. He nearly ripped the police officer who tried stopping him at the barricade tape to shreds. Hizashi barely making it on time, with both their licenses, so they could be let through. Anxiety bled into relief when he spotted his students in the flashing blue lights. That relief was gone as quickly as it came when Shouta noticed a head of purple among the group. "You," he growled out. "Me," Hitoshi replied sheepishly, avoiding eye contact with his parent at all costs. "Hi, Dad. Pops." Shouta glared at Hitoshi, arms crossed interminably across his chest. He was silent for a moment as he stared at his students down, ignoring Hizashi at his elbows, who was soundlessly begging to fret like the mother hen he was. Hitoshi, Kaminari, Ashido, Sero, and Kirishima were looking around, avoiding eye contact. Even Bakugou had the sense to look guilty, though he seemed more tired than anything. After a number of 10 seconds, however, Shouta relented his tough neck, groaning loudly as he shoved his face into his hands. He could pretend to be angry all he wanted, but he was simply glad they were safe. Disappointed? Yes, but not surprised. He took a few deep breaths before looking up to watch his husband check the group for injuries. Treading at their decision, the scene was almost laughable, especially watching Bakugou wiggle his way under Hisashi's arm to stand closer to Shouta. "A little past your bedtime, isn't it?" Shouta snarked through his hands. Bakugou glared at him from the side. "Couldn't say the same thing about you, Hobo-sensei. But we all know you don't have a fucking normal sleep schedule anyways." He growled right back, through the mid-yawn. Shouta raised an eyebrow, smirking slightly at the young blonde, who rolled his eyes. Yeah, fucking whatever." He yawned again. "Would you prefer if I let them run wild on their own?" Shouta's smile dropped. "Huh, didn't think so." Bakugou grumbled, tucking his chin into his hoodie. "I'm not even gonna ask why you were all wandering the streets at 3 in the morning," Shouta said, addressing the group again. "Frankly, you're not my responsibility till morning. Except you," he added, shoving a finger into Hitoshi's chest. "We will be discussing this at home." He sighed heavily again, before locking eyes with each of his students in turn. "That said, I am proud of you." They each stood a little straighter at that. "Not because you were wandering the streets of Masutafu at all hours of the morning, but because you called me in a crisis situation. I know for a fact that last year each of you would have gone rogue trying to figure out what happened here. See if you could find the villain yourself, but tonight you didn't." He was cut off by the familiar voice behind him. Eraserhead. Shouta glanced over his shoulder to see Detective Tsukalchi watching them, a dark cloud over his head. He waved a nonchalant hand before turning back to his own group. "We will continue the discussion later. Stay here for a moment. Let your parents know you will be sleeping over at Hitoshi." "No, I won't rat you out this time. One step out of line in my classroom, however, and you're all being thrown to the dogs. Hizashi." He gave a curt nod to his husband, silently asking him to keep an eye on his hell children before walking to the detective. He really didn't want to have this conversation right now. All he wanted was to have his son and husband back to safe at home, as well as Hitoshi's friends. He was a pro-hero, however. They all knew the job. He steeled himself with a no-doubt grim conversation awaiting him. He grumbled a greeting as they both stood, looking at the body lying below them. No matter how many dead bodies he's seen, it never gets easier. He repressed a shiver, burying his face in his scarf, mentally noting another visit to Hound Dog for his students. Carolina Haynes, Sakachi said from beside him, handing him her ID in a small bag. American. I believe you may be familiar with her place of work. Shouta was, in fact, very familiar with the orphanage she worked at. However, seeing it in front of him was still startling. The orphanage was where he and Hizashi had pulled Hitoshi from a few years back. They were still in the process of shutting it down, but the damn assholes were really good at covering their asses. Seems like a clean shot. Sniper. We'll know more after the body is examined. He handed Shouta another small, clear bag. The dark-haired hero stared intently at the card in his hands. Corner tinged red. Reason? Your guess is as good as mine, though her abuse case could be a factor. He exhaled deeply before continuing. We gotta figure this out, Aizawa. We can't let this keep happening. Shouta nodded along with him. He knew that, obviously. He knew that. But they had to follow every damn lead, every damn scrap of evidence, every whisper of the Grim Reaper, and every time they came up short. Shouta didn't like to say things were impossible, because really, in their world, not much was. The Grim Reaper, though, that was seeming more and more impossible by the day. He huffed out cold air, watching and smoked in front of him, before glancing back at his group. They were joking with each other about something, poking at Bakugou, who was ready to fall asleep, standing or exploding. A smile was halfway to his face before it froze, his eyes wandering. Maybe we won't have to, he said slowly, watching his students fondly turn back to Sakachi, a mischievous grin in his eyes. Maybe all we need is a new perspective. Shouta sat, nursing his third cup of black coffee at his kitchen table. There was little talk between him and the 6 teenagers as they ate their breakfast. Sakachi's voice, low, flowed incomparably from their kitchen as he spoke on the phone. They had barely gotten 5 hours of sleep before the day started. The detective wanted to get this meeting over as soon as possible. Daddy? A bright voice called, giving Shouta a fraction of a moment to put his cup down and prepare of the weight attacking his chest. Good morning, Eri. He grumbled fondly, refusing to look at his students' smug faces. She wiggled out of his arms, going back towards Hizashi, both dressed for an outing. Daddy, look at my new coat. Papa and I got it last week. Isn't it great? Eri giggled in delight, spinning in circles. Shouta shot a look at his husband, who would not meet his eyes, knowing he shouldn't have bought Eri more clothes. Shouta loved spoiling her just as much, but damn, that girl could dress a village. I just couldn't resist her show. Look at how cute she is. His dumb blonde would answer every time. It looks wonderful, Eri. I do hope you're not going to go shopping again today. You know, with the sun out and all that. He said, a small warning to his husband. Nope, Hizashi squealed. Just the park. Come on, Eri. Time to feed the ducks. He continued, pulling the excited girl out of the house. Duckies! She squealed delightedly, before waving at all of them. Bye, Daddy. Bye, Toshi. Bye, Toshi's friends. Bye, Mr. Baku... Oh. She turned suddenly, running back to Shouta, with her pinky finger out. I'll see you later. Shouta linked their fingers together. I'll see you later, he answered, ruffling her hair as she sprinted out the door. Shut up. He deadpanned when it closed, inviting a round of defiant noises. I still can't believe Blasty is the one who she addresses out of your friends, Toshi. So not cool. Kaminari groaned, dramatically flopping in his chair. I am literally her fucking hero, dipshit. Of course she calls me by my name. Bakugou answered, flicking the smug blonde on the head, who slapped a hand away indignantly. They continued to argue seamlessly among themselves as Shouta began to clean up, waving Ashido and Kirishima as they tried helping. By the time he was done, 2 more coffees in hand, Sakachi was sat at the table watching his students in amusement and contemplation as they continued to poke fun at each other. He placed one of the mugs in front of the detective, getting comfortable in his own chair once again. This is a new perspective that will bring down our killer, Tsukauchi mumbled, incredulously. Shouta snorted. I know they don't look like much, but trust me when I say they're going to help whether I assign them or not. This way I can keep them on a short leash. He whispered back before clearing his throat. Instantly, 6 pairs of eyes were on him as they settled more civilly in their seats. Are you done? He asked blankly. A round of yes senseis were immediately heard, and Shouta inwardly smirked, proud at his students. He gave a small nod to Tsukauchi, who cleared his own throat before addressing the group. Last night at 3:01 a.m., Kaminari Denki alerted your homeroom teacher and pro-hero Eraserhead of a dead body you and your friends had come across. One of our leading pathologists has a quirk that allows them to see the exact time a person's heart stopped beating. She has informed us that the time of death was 2:27 a.m., which means if you called Aizawa exactly when you found the body, you would have missed the murder by 30 minutes. That detail isn't really important. What we do want to know is if any of you notice anything suspicious in the surrounding area. A couple of heads shake, and no's were giving as an answer. Though neither men expected another answer, it was still pretty disappointing to hear. Tsukauchi nodded, taking note of the answer. I'm sure you know the body you found last night was not an ordinary murder. The detective continued, pulling a number of files from his bag, handing them out. Shouta watched the student's eyes widen slightly at the large, red, classified across the front folder. Yeah. Aizawa-sensei mentioned something about last night, but he didn't really elaborate past something important that we should discuss later. Kirishima answered, hesitantly pulling the folder towards him. Didn't realize it was classified information. He mumbled, more to himself than anyone else. Shouta watched as the students opened their folders. Reactions varied in level of confusion. The fuck is all this? Bakugou said, equably, asking for a moment. Shouta barely retained an eye roll. Usually his Violetale students was able to regain his language and general disregard for authority in front of, well, new authority figures. To a certain extent, at least. Tsukauchi, however, lost that polite privilege at the second case he worked with them in their first year. Shouta can tell he secretly feels proud Bakugou treats him with the same respect, or lack of, as his teachers, particularly Shouta himself. He excelled heavily, preparing himself for the onslaught of information he was about to give his students, the risk he was entering them into. He could tell they were also readying themselves, their full attention on him. In the folders you were given, there is information in the case we've been working on for 3 years. Though much of the information is classified to most pro-heroes in the police force, they're all in the know for attempting to apprehend the subject. Your folder contains a slightly reduced case background and evidence of what myself and a few other leading cases have access to. Understand that the only reason you're provided with this case is because I know you would try solving it yourselves. Don't argue. You would try solving it yourselves, with no backup, lackluster research, and immature arrogance. He paused for effect, ignoring their grimaces and scoffs. As it is, we are hoping that a new eye to the team will help us with things we may have missed. You're young, you're smart, and most importantly, you've never laid eyes on this case or anything like it before today, which means you should not be swayed by previous evidence. Now, he shifted in his seat, leaning forward slightly. You do not by any means have to accept helping in this case. Similar files will be given to the rest of your classmates, because where one of you go, the rest follow. You're like weeds. You're only getting your briefing beforehand because of what you witnessed last night. So any objections? The silence that followed. He watched each of their reactions, trying to catch any sign of hesitancy, watching Hitoshi frantically longer. But there was not. Nervousness, yes, but also determination. Shouta let that small smile play on his lips for a moment, before playing on with his explanation. Very well. He cleared his throat, moving back into his seat and taking a long drink of his coffee. That. He gestured to Bakugou's folder, where their assassin lay on the open page. Is the Grim Reaper. He heard a couple snorts at the name. And this, he continued, flicking a baggie with one of the cards in it, is their calling card. Whoa, that's the same one from last night. Terror of Death, see? Told you guys it was important. Mina and Sero spoke at the same time, followed by Hitoshi. Little on the nose, eh? He deadpanned, staring intently at the photos. One was new, a full-body image of them on top of a roof in Tokyo. The other, the original half-skull. Yes, but they're not a laughing matter, we can assure you. Sakachi replied, glaring at his own folder, causing the heroes in training to shift slightly in their seats. Exactly. Shouta agreed. Yes, the name sounds almost ridiculous, but that name strikes fear into the heroes and villains alike. Reaper is not someone to mess with, and this card is not something to be ignored. With that, I want you all to take a look at what we have on the Reaper, and tell me what you see. Once these students had their eyes on the folder, Shouta took his own in his hands, glaring in annoyance at what was provided. Case report, the Grim Reaper. Name, unknown. Alias, the Grim Reaper. Age, unknown. Note, approximately 20 to 35. Etc. due to time and operation. Sex, unknown. Ethnicity, unknown. Physical descriptors. Full black body armor, likely bullet and heat-proof. Black hoodie, likely to cover his hair. Full face mask and blackout goggles. All black apart from the half skull around his nose and jaw. Weapons carried have varied from throwing knives, samurai swords, handguns, rifles, snipers, tasers, grenades, extendable bow staff, crossbow, bow and arrow, etc. All other physical attributes are unknown. Identifiers. Calling card. Tarot card of death. Quirk. Unknown. Title. Villain. Assassin. Affirmation. Unknown. Works alone. Probability. High. Unknown organization. Probability. High. League of Villains. Probability. High. All speculation. No evidence. Crimes. Ongoing. Time operation. Japan. Approximately 3 years. Other approximately 2 years. NB. Though information and evidence is lacking on the Grim Reaper, officers, heroes, and other are under no circumstance to act alone when they are involved. Ranked highest danger level. Do not engage. Shouta was brought out of his own stupor as the folder was slammed onto the table. Bakugou glared hard at both Shouta and Sakachi, ignoring his friend's startled jumps and explanations. What the fuck is this shit? He repeated his earlier statement, growling at the two men. Shouta sat still for a moment, calmly taking the range boy. What did you notice? He asked coolly. Huh? What did I notice? I noticed that you are a lot clearly not as good at your fucking jobs as you're made out to be. I noticed that this entire report is bullshit. I noticed that the Grim fucking Reaper may as well be an old yoki because this is absolutely nothing fucking useful in this report. I fucking noticed that you know literally fucking nothing about this villain and... That's exactly it, Bakugou. Shouta interrupted, holding on his own report. We really don't know anything about the Reaper. Only that they leave memorabilia and are very good at their job. That is why they're so dangerous. This is why they're so unpredictable. Why we can't find them. It is the unknown that people fear most. The students continued to look at their folder with uncertainty and contemplation, small frowns on each of their faces. Bakugou was glaring so hard, it was almost as if he were trying to make the pages talk out of pure fear. Shouta took a large gulp of his coffee, staring at glances with the man next to it. Neither had seen the group so quiet before, so absorbed in what they were reading, no matter how little the information provided was. Sir? Ashida spoke, up after a moment. What's a villain assassin? Like, I think I get what it means, but why not just classify them as a villain? I can answer that, Sakachi said. Villain is really an umbrella term for a group of people. Murderers, petty robbers, even scientists and doctors can fall under the term. It's similar to the word hero. Technically, you're all heroes, even though you're still in training. Then there's underground, rescue, sidekicks, who all fit under the word hero as well. So yes, we could have replaced Reaper as a simple villain. However, his crimes do not stop at just killing heroes and civilians. They kill villains as well, professionally and with practice. Their full set of skills is unknown, but it's vast. They're dangerous in many ways people cannot fathom. They are not just a villain. Ashiro nodded, slightly to herself, running her fingers over the photos once more. I hope you can understand what's at stake here. He continued after the brief pause. Sure, but we all gotta do is track this dude down, capture him, and save the day. We have pretty good experience with tricky villains. Kirishima chimed in, bringing back his usual cheery manner. Shouta liked Kirishima usually, but he didn't want his students to be optimistic here. He wanted them to be afraid. Shit here's right. I'm gonna blast this little murderer to pieces. Bakugou added, a dangerous smile on his lips. No. Shouta didn't want them to be afraid. He needed them to be terrified. Not a murderer, he said coldly, grabbing all their attention. The Grim Reaper is nothing like what you faced before, and this kind of naive optimism is going to get you killed. They are not a simple murderer. He leaned forward slightly, clasping his hands tightly. The Grim Reaper is a highly skilled, trained assassin. Every victim they've gone after, they've struck down. Every witness they've seen, they've killed on the spot. Every semi-decent lead we get, both the people and evidence disappear without a trace. The Grim Reaper is dangerous, unpredictable, smart, and versatile, and they never, ever miss. I do not give you this information so you could go chase a trail that would end up with you killed. I gave you this information so you are prepared. If you do happen to come across Reaper, you stay hidden. You contact me, Tsukelchi, or other heroes or police officers. You do not, under any circumstance, engage with the suspect. Do I make myself clear? He finished, receiving a gulp of multitudes that simply were not satisfactory. I said! Shouta stood up, glaring at each of his students, hands flat on the table in front of him. Do I make myself clear? He emphasized each a solid round of yes, sir. He held Bakugou's defiant gaze a moment longer, refusing to bulge. After a moment, the versatile blonde sagged slightly in a seat, head hanging. Fucking yeah, whatever. He gritted out, which for now, Shouta decided, was good enough. Okay, great, amazing. Next chapter is I've decided to not give summaries. Enjoy the Okay, so there's no summaries. All right, that makes sense. The next chapter is going to be roughly around the same time. I am hurrying because I have today and tomorrow to fill up the spaces that I need before I go to my trip. And I'm panicked. I do not have enough. And I might have enough, I might not. It all depends on a lot of stuff. And I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because not only do I want to finish recording and then go to sleep, but I want to finish recording and then I want to talk to my boyfriend in VC because we haven't been in VC in a month, and then go to sleep. So yeah, I'm trying to rush. Yeah, rushing. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.